Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 4 has changed the show in some pretty big ways. A new island, returning dinosaurs, even more cryptic hinting at Site B, and a lot of science fiction technology are things that the Netflix series is now fully embracing. Some of them have been met with warm reception, while others not so much. Today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Season 4 and explaining how this could all be important stuff for the Jurassic Park franchise going forward. Now before I go any further, I want to mention to you guys that today's video is sponsored by CuriosityStream, the world's first streaming service addressing our lifelong quest to learn, explore, and understand, offering up thousands of non-fiction titles, documentaries, and exclusive originals from some of the world's best filmmakers. This is the place to find fascinating stories that are entertaining without any of the reality show nonsense. CuriosityStream is the Netflix for nerds, the Hulu for history buffs, and the Disney Plus for the scientists in us all. I think CuriosityStream is a perfect sponsor for my channel due to their wide selection of dinosaur documentaries, especially this one called Amazing Dino World, which I always thought had some pretty cool depictions of feathered dinosaurs. So I could see it being a good comparison between what Jurassic World Dominion is going to do and what modern documentaries offer. CuriosityStream is the entertainment brand for people that want to know more, and it's available on Roku, Android, Xbox, iOS, Chromecast, Amazon, Apple, and several smart TVs as well. New shows come out every week, so whether you want to learn about science, sports, music, technology, nature, or history, you can find it all on CuriosityStream. Just go to curiositystream.com/Clayton for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series. And just for you guys, use the promo code Clayton and you're going to save 25% off, which comes out to only $14.99 a year. That's just $1.25 per month, and just in time for a Christmas gift as well. So click the link below or go to curiositystream.com/Clayton and save 25% off right now. That's only $14.99 for the entire year. Once again, I want to thank CuriosityStream for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to Jurassic Park. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, we're going to be going over Season 4 of the Jurassic World Netflix series and why I think so far it's probably the weakest season to date, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all just disappointment. For starters, the return of the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 was something that a lot of people had been theorizing about for years now, and to see it finally make its comeback in the 4th season of the show has some pretty mixed results in my opinion. In fact, I think a lot of Camp Cretaceous Season 4 and how it played out can be traced back to Jurassic Park 3 and the incorporation of that film's main dinosaur, because these new episodes seem to be borrowing a lot from how that movie's story played out. The Spinosaurus return is interesting because it comes back with very little explanation, similar to how it was first introduced in Jurassic Park 3. In Season 4, we're just kind of told that there is a Spinosaurus living in the desert biome of Manticore's dinosaur location, with the only explanation as to how it got there being that the small group running the company stole some animals from Isla Sorna. I do like the mystery behind some of this stuff early on in the season, but I think the further it went on, much like Jurassic Park 3, it became clear to me that we weren't going to get any answers to any of the mysteries, and that's because more than likely when they were making the show, they didn't have those answers written out at all. I will say one thing that's really interesting is that this entire plot is, and you can just totally see this, it's obvious. This is all taken from a computer game back when Jurassic Park 3 came out called Scan Command. That game had some campers crash on an island and get stranded while a crazy scientist was conducting research and trying to communicate with dinosaurs and get them to fight one another. You can't make this stuff up, man. Season 4 of Camp Cretaceous is literally an adaptation of Scan Command. And of course, all over the cover art of that stuff was the Spinosaurus, just like we got on all the posters for Season 4. So while I do think it's cool that we've gotten a further Jurassic Park story with this colossal dinosaur, I do find it to be somewhat disappointing that Jurassic is still just dropping it into plot lines with little to no information on why it exists and what's going on in general. That being said, the definite highlight of the whole season for me does involve the Spinosaurus, specifically when it breaks through the rocks and drags the Smilodon out, presumably killing it in the process. For all of Camp Cretaceous' efforts to be a Jurassic Park version of Westworld, that was the definitive moment where I felt like it nailed the weird science fiction tone that it really needed way more of to keep that sort of entertainment coming steady. When the Saber Tooth Tiger is bearing down on the characters and you just see it get yanked out by the Spinosaurus, it's pretty badass, man. I thought it was, that was the highlight for the whole season for me. Now the basic plot I thought was a little too contrived in the long run. What it all boils down to is that the freed motor Mosasaurus attacks the campers' boat, causes them to wreck on a mysterious island that just so happens to be near Isla Nublar, and it's revealed that a ton of dinosaur species that have been stolen from Isla Sorna in order to conduct research in making dinosaurs fight to the death in mortal combat with one another for the amusement of paying customers. This is all very fun and very cool Jurassic Park stuff, but it's filled with loads of plot holes that just make it seem ridiculously silly when the season is said and done. And a lot of that has to do with the plot twist at the end with Kenji's dad. I don't think everyone really went over the details of this twist before they committed to it at the end of the day, because it kind of makes no sense when you compare it to previous seasons that we saw earlier for the show. For example, hear me out here. If Kenji's dad is responsible for getting Sinoceratops DNA and presumably other forms of whatever dinosaur DNA they wanted from Jurassic World, why does he need Sammy and a drone to do it in the cover of darkness when he owns an entire building on the island and the dinosaurs are readily available to be handled by the public? In fact, the very method in which Manticore takes DNA from the Sinoceratops, they collected its saliva, could have been way more easily obtained by just feeding the dinosaurs like what we see happen in Jurassic World. So the whole plot of them trying to hybridize the Sino with the Spinosaurus DNA comes off as rather overly convoluted when you start to think about it. Now, I'm going to give the show the benefit of the doubt when it comes to what the twist will lead to, because I think it's actually pretty interesting. And so far, seasons 1 and 3 have been really interesting additions to the Jurassic Park mythos, in my opinion. But to put it mildly, I think this is where the show jumped the shark in a lot of different ways. I do like the new hybrid dinosaurs, I like the look of the labs, I like a lot of what they do with all the new species and all the returning species. Seeing the Pteranodon hit the wall was pretty funny, but I don't know, there's something here that just feels off. To keep things positive, Season 4 does a lot of really cool stuff with the technological biodomes that they've created for individual scenarios. Seeing dinosaurs in the redwoods, the snow, and desert are all really cool ideas, and the incorporation of stolen Site B dinosaurs is also pretty interesting. One thing that does bother me a little bit though is the idea that the Isla Sorna dinosaurs that were selected happen to be what the Lost World Jurassic Park established as male and female tyrannosaurs, despite the fact that in the show, they call both the brown and green assets females. Now, my theory here is that this wasn't always supposed to be the case, because the way they interact with each other and behave strikes me as being something of an obvious nod to the buck and doe T-Rexes from the second movie. Now, this doesn't necessarily break canon, because the male Rex could have simply changed its sex due to the amphibian DNA. However, it's already reproduced, and we know that the dinosaurs only do this when they are in an environment made up entirely of the same gender. It's a survival trait after all, so what gives? This is leading me to assume that maybe Site B still has some dinosaurs on it, but the animals could be in a pretty bad way if this is happening again on the island. Now, these aren't the same T-Rexes from the Lost World. One of them definitely isn't, because it's the daughter of this one, but maybe their numbers really are dangerously low, and maybe it has something to do with people taking them off of Site B in order to take part in this dinosaur fighting ring stuff. Either way, I do like the idea of the creature's aggression going up due to the types of food they were eating, and I enjoyed the idea of a scientist trying to study the animals in different biomes as well. Too bad they didn't really go anywhere with that. Even in the end, the whole scientific study stuff was abandoned in favor of just having drones zap the dinosaurs towards one another in order to make them fight, which did result in a pretty cool face-off between the new Kentrosaurus and a T-Rex, but really, they could have used that dinosaur language research to way better effect during scenes like that. They just kind of abandoned it. It was like, nah, just zap them and make them fight each other. The character development was great here across the board. Some of it was kind of a bit over the top in some areas, but since it's an animated Netflix series, I guess that's to be expected. I do think a lot of the actual franchise spirit died away in order to prop up the characters though, since this is by far the least Jurassic Park or Jurassic World feeling story we've gotten. And I understand that the writers are trying to branch out and make this series more than just the same recycled ideas again and again, but this was, in my opinion at least, the wrong direction to go, especially with the robots. Now, the dog-like Brad units I thought were fine to begin with, and they did offer up some cool new tech for Jurassic Park companies to play with, but the Sleestack-looking two-legged versions were unnecessarily goofy to me, and they actually reminded me a lot of the robot that Rocky Balboa gave Paulie. In fact, there's a lot of Camp Cretaceous Season 4 that feels like it's straight out of the 1980s instead of the 1990s, like what Jurassic Park was actually all about when it came to these sort of things. And part of me thinks that may have something to do with the people in charge being way older than those of us who grew up with the first 2 or 3 movies when they were literally coming out in theaters, but that's not really something I want to dive into just yet. What I will say is that Season 4 looks to be made from a place of love towards Jurassic Park and the fans of the Jurassic Park franchise, but they don't seem to know how to take all of these ideas that the fans are interested in and craft them into a story that still feels like a cohesive and tonally Jurassic narrative when they're trying to branch out away from the movies. For example, a lot of these ideas have been floating around in the fan base for years now, and I've done videos on all of them. What happened to the Spinosaurus after Jurassic Park 3? What's up with the Ice Age extinct animals we know they have DNA of in-universe? What happened to the Tyrannosaur family on Isla Sorna? What happened to Isla Sorna in general? What other kinds of ways are they trying to exploit the dinosaurs outside of the theme parks? You know, this is all stuff that's been on people's minds for literally years. But the way they went about telling this particular story, I think, was just a little too off-brand for the Jurassic Park license, in my personal opinion. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is bad or something that should be pigeonholed, but I do think that in my own ranking, this is actually just under Jurassic Park 3 in terms of how I count it among my favorites. The coolest thing to come out of this season for me was the whole biodome setup, but I wish it had been something that made more sense in relation to the other films and seasons, because I don't really know if I can believe that right next door to Isla Nublar, there's this entire dinosaur pit fighting operation with robots straight out of Rocky IV and stolen Site B animals that nobody has talked about until now. That's why I think some of this could have been radically different earlier on in development, which we do know did go down in Season 2 of the show. Maybe when it started, the island was actually supposed to be Isla Sorna, and that was supposed to be the buck and the doe, and that would have been confirmed without a shadow of a doubt as the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3, and maybe Manticore would have been Biosyn or something. That all just makes way more sense in relation to the brand and franchise in general, and I think way more people would have bought into that, especially if the robots were actually just replaced with the modern drone equipment that we already got to see in the same episodes. So, and this is just a theory, by the way, I don't know if that was originally the ideas, but it does seem like something went off the rails here, and they were like, oh, new islands. It's weird too, you know, if you want to make another island, like maybe they could have called it Site C, which we know was in development for a while behind the scenes. This was a little bizarre. Still, I'm not going to knock them for trying something new, since Jurassic Park does need to continue to evolve in the story department and not just recycle the same plots over and over again. But then again, I thought they'd already done a great job at that with Season 3. Man, the whole Scorpius Rex idea was such an awesome piece of Jurassic World lore that I think went a really long way, especially in how faithfully it lined up with the beginning of Fallen Kingdom and incorporated Dr. Wu and the mercenaries. What a fun plot. But yeah, anyways, these are all just my own thoughts and opinions on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 4. What did all of you think, and what are your thoughts on what we can expect to see in Season 5? Now, whatever they happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it really means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video and hope that you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.